Hey guys, Noah here. Today I'm excited to share with you a preview from a new podcast I've been enjoying and think you will too. You may know Jacob Goldstein as the former host of the Planet Money podcast. Now, he's hosting a new show called What's Your Problem? It's a show about technology and business where visionaries talk about the future they're trying to build and the problems they have to solve to get there. You'll get to know the people who are trying to figure out how to do things no one on the planet knows how to do. And, like this show, like Code Story, you'll learn about the critical moments it takes to change an industry. In this preview, Jacob talks with Keenan Wyrobek, the co-founder of a drone company called Zipline. The company has been building and deploying drones in Rwanda and Ghana for years. Now, they're trying to solve a surprisingly hard problem. How do they make drone delivery work stateside? I hope you enjoy it. You can hear Keenan's full story and more episodes of What's Your Problem wherever you get your podcasts. Please enjoy.
I'm Jacob Goldstein, and this is What's Your Problem, the show where we talk to entrepreneurs and engineers about the future they're going to build once they solve a few problems. My guest today is Keenan Wyrobek. He's the co-founder of the drone delivery company Zipline, and he has a message for the world. The drones are coming.
There's going to be more planes and flying cars flying in the airspace in 20 years by a factor of 100 than there are aircraft flying in the air today.
The drones are coming, and I wanted to talk to Keenan because he understands at a really deep, practical level what it's going to take for that to happen, for the drones to get here. His company, Zipline, is not just some startup with a big dream and a PowerPoint deck and a bunch of VC funding. They have been building and deploying drones for years in Rwanda and Ghana. They're now doing hundreds of flights a day, every day, delivering medical supplies across both countries. And Zipline is just now starting to expand into the United States. So there are a ton of interesting problems that I want to learn about here. The problems Keenan faced building one of the world's first drone delivery companies, and also the really surprising problems that come up as his company is trying to expand from Ghana and Rwanda and into the US. Those problems in particular, they tell us a lot about the future of commercial drone flight in the United States. We'll get to all that in a minute, but we're going to start with a brief story from when Keenan was 12 years old, because it's a delightful story, and also it tells you a lot about who he is, and it sets up what he is doing today. At the time, Keenan got this assignment in school: build a machine to fling a golf ball as far as possible.
Building stuff is just where I just have my fun. And, I'm very competitive. So I got my hands on this big old winch, the kind of thing with a big old hand crank and a gear and everything, and a whole bunch of surgical tubing. I cranked basically until I physically wasn't strong enough to crank the thing anymore. And and you can kind of hear all the boards creaking as you cranked it, and the bands were just making this really weird sound. And I was like, okay, backed up, and then had this really long rope. And then pulled the thing. The arm smashed up into this basically 2x4 frame so hard, the 2x4 frame just exploded. And then this big sliver, like a foot-long sliver of 2x4, literally impaled and sticking out of the tree. I could just picture like it hitting me in the stomach and going to the emergency room and maybe not surviving. Yeah, it was a memorable experience.
How far did the golf ball go?
Really far, like 2 soccer fields. Like it went past the soccer field, past the hill at the end of the soccer field, and it took us like 2 hours to find it. That was very satisfying.
Keenan grew up, and maybe not surprisingly, he got into building robots. Worked on a couple of projects after he got out of school, and around 2014, when he was in his early 30s, he found himself at this moment when he could really think hard about what his next thing should be. And he told me he went around looking for a problem to solve. Kept coming up with ideas, but when he went and asked experts in the real world, is this a problem? They'd be like, actually, no, that is not really a problem. Finally, his wife pointed him in a new direction.
My wife's an epidemiologist, and she was telling me these stories about health campaigns, vaccine campaigns that just get stuck on logistics. And so, of course, the wheels are turning. It's like, okay, maybe drones and that actually, that seems like maybe there's a real problem to solve here that people are going to really care about.
Okay.
But at the same time, I will warn you, I'm a very skeptical person. So it's like, okay, I'm going to dig into this. We're going to go learn about this. And I'm just sure there's going to be 1,000 reasons why, this is never going to work. We can't ever solve this problem. And so we spent a bunch of time in Central America, where my wife is from, in Africa. We visited this one medical supply warehouse in Tanzania, and outside the warehouse, as far as you could see, football fields of pallets stacked, 2 stories high in places. We're just outside this warehouse. We're like, why do you have all these medical supplies, vaccines, pharmaceuticals, other things? Why are they outside? And, one of the people in the delegation sort of quietly, because they were kind of embarrassed about it, they were like, yeah, that's all expired medicine.
Oh, wow.
And that was one of those moments where it clicked of okay, supply is actually not the big problem. There's actually something much more practical around how to run, how to get the supply from point A, these warehouses, to these doctors. That was one of the experiences that kind of just the bit flipped in my head from this is probably not a problem we can solve to holy shit, we have to solve this problem. And it just became really clear you could leapfrog over all these factors by doing this with drones in an on-demand way.
So this is the rare instance where a robot can solve a big, important problem in the world that the people dealing with the problem actually agree is a big, important problem.
Exactly. And I'd say that people agreeing it's an important problem was another big part of my concern, right? In Silicon Valley, we like to use the word disruption as a good word, right? You walk into a health system, a national health system of a country and say, let's disrupt this. Nobody is excited. Yeah. Everybody's here's the door. We're busy. Go disrupt somebody else. We have a job to do. I was very worried that there just wasn't going to be an appetite for change in these health systems. But really the opposite happened, where we started getting to know these health systems and the ministers of health in these countries. And I still remember the first interaction with the Minister of Health in Rwanda. She said, okay, you've got 2 weeks. We've got all the data. You've been modeling how a drone system like this could work in a health system. Put together the case. What's the health impact? What's the economic impact? And then we'll go from there. And that was just amazing. The rest is, of course, history. The case was really compelling on the health side and the economic side. And they became our first customer.
And specifically, what is the ask? What is the job?
The job from Rwanda is deliver blood on demand. The obvious answer in the early days was okay, cool. Which drone are we going to buy? So went out to all the drone companies that could make a drone that could do what we wanted. And this was an incredibly frustrating journey because the best quote I got for a drone was $200,000 per drone with a 200 flight warranty if I didn't fly it in the rain. And it was and obviously the economics of that are just don't work at all. And the customers want delivery all the time when it's raining or not. This was all really clear. And it just became, this was one of those wake up call moments of oh, you got to do this yourself. And getting this first product service off the ground for this customer is going to be a much bigger lift than you thought.
So you realize you're going to have to build your own drones from scratch. And one of the things that's interesting to me about this part of the story is it right? You wind up basically using iPhone parts.
So the sensors, many of the sensors that make the drone fly, these are the same sensors that are in your phone, and that detect whether or not, what orientation your phone is turned for your video to play. So your phone knows the video should be sideways. Our plane knows which way is up and how to fly without, falling out of the sky.
And it's truly basically the same sensors?
Oh yeah, made by the same companies.
What others? If there are others, can you just rattle off?
Sure.
What sensors that are in my iPhone, more or less, are in your drones?
Yeah, so GPS, the cell modems that are in your phone, we have in our drones. Even basically the processors that are in your phone, we use very similar technology processors.
The same chip, more or less, similar.
Exactly.
Chips.
They're so power efficient and they're so capable.
It's amazing to me, I guess, in part because, I've gotten used to thinking about giant businesses like, I don't know, Uber or Instagram that okay, I get that those you couldn't have without the iPhone, right? That is intuitive to me. But the idea that a company sending drones across sub-Saharan Africa to deliver blood, that is also built on the iPhone is wild. You needed the cell phone, the smartphone revolution. You needed the iPhone to have come along and made all these components super cheap, super reliable, super smart.
Exactly.
So I want to just talk through in some detail how one, what do you call it? Delivery, I guess, how one delivery works. So some doctor or nurse needs something in their hospital. What happens?
Yeah, so a doctor or nurse needs something, they place their order, right? And by the way, we're really flexible there. They can use an app, they can use their phone, they can use WhatsApp, they can pick up the phone and call us, whatever's easy for them. So our team, they're going to get the unit of blood out of the freezer or fridge. They're going to get the unit off the shelf. They're going to pack it up. put it into one of the drones. The drone gets put into a launcher.
Okay, now I'm going to pause you there because we have a video, and I know we're like watching videos on a podcast is a questionable move, but let's try it because like I do want to see it, right? It's okay. Cool. So are you ready? I'm going to push play. You push play too. Okay, ready? Go.
All right.
Okay, so somebody is loading. It looks like a plane about the size of a person onto some kind of a launcher, right? Onto like a ramp.
Exactly.
Oh, there's propellers. The propellers are spinning.
I like your narration.
And then there's a guy. What's the guy there doing? Oh, it just launched. He just launched it.
Yeah. The wingspan's about 10 feet. So picture, it's like a big RC plane.
Okay. A big remote control plane. And by the way, I mean, it's not in fact remote controlled, right? Like is it actually just flying on its own?
Yeah. So it is flying. It's flying automatically all the way out to the delivery site.
Does that mean there are people whose job is to sit somewhere at the warehouse or at an office and like look at a camera to basically do air traffic control, to look at what all the drones are doing and make sure that...
Exactly. So we call our drones zips, and we call those people zip controllers. Their job is very similar to air traffic control.
And do they generally have to do anything, or do the drones take care of themselves?
The drones take care of themselves.
Okay, so here, let's keep watching. So now the drone is going to make the drop.
First of all, you have to picture a package. So picture a cake box, right? Size package.
Like it?
With a paper parachute on it. That's in the belly of this drone. And so the drone flies over the delivery site.
Okay.
And when it drops it, that paper parachute will inflate and the package drifts to the ground. A little bit like a cartoon is how I picture it.
Oh, I'm watching it right now. Yeah, it worked. It looks kind of fast. It's coming down kind of fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it does come down fast. This is the fun of the engineering challenge here. If you come down really slowly, that accuracy that basically gets worse.
It's because the wind can blow it to the side more. Basically,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If it hit you on the head, it looks like it would hurt.
I have been a test subject of this intentionally to make sure
you have stood under it, so it hit you on the head. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
Truly?
You know it's happening. I live to tell the tale. So
okay. More seriously, has anybody ever gotten hurt by one of your drones?
No one's gotten hurt by one of our drones. But there's a lot of engineering work that goes into really minimizing the chances that you can get hurt by a drone.
Okay, tell me about the end of the flight. It doesn't land in the way one would think of a little plane landing.
It doesn't land. Yeah.
So there's like two arms sticking into the air.
There's two poles sticking into the air. And those poles are on motors. Okay. So they move up and down. But like basically, they're on motors. Between those two poles is a string.
Okay.
Really small string.
Okay.
And basically what's happening is our drone flies between these two poles. And at the last second, literally that last fraction of a second, if everything looks good, those poles, the motors on those poles will snap those poles up. So the line flings into the tail hook of the plane, capturing the plane, and that's how it lands.
That is amazing. That is just the first half of my conversation with Keenan Wyrobek. In the rest of the conversation, he explains the truly surprising reason it's harder to build a drone business in the U.S. than it is in Rwanda. To hear the rest of the conversation, listen to What's Your Problem? It's available wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, there you have it, guys. That was a preview of the new podcast, What's Your Problem? From Pushkin Industries, hosted by Jacob Goldstein. Just like Jacob noted, you can find more episodes of What's Your Problem wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe today so you don't miss an episode.